Hello and welcome to the Tournament Center here at Magic Pro Tour 2015. Marshall Sutcliffe here. I've got Zach Hill with me as well. We're going to take a look at a deck that has, well, it's made a big appearance here at the tournament. We thought we'd take a minute to do a deck tech on it and look a little deeper. It's Rabble Red. Zach, give us an overview of the deck.
Yeah, so the format really does have a lot of red decks. There's, decks, everything from, 17 Mountain, a million one-drops, Titan Strength, Madcap Skills, to a deck that's basically 8 creatures, some Ash Zealots, Chandra's Phoenix, and Burn. Weirdly, a lot of those decks, even though there's a huge difference in the cards in them, have pretty similar matchups. You'd play them for similar reasons. This deck is somewhere in the middle. It's one of the few decks we've seen that's doing well, that has a good combination of creatures and spells, really a lot more like your classic red deck, some creatures and some burn to push it through, as well as the M15 card Goblin Rabble Master, which is actually making an appearance in a few different decks here today. So just kind of a new, exciting list to look at. It makes use of some M15 cards.
All right, well, why don't I take a look at that list? We can start off with the one-drops. Some of the usual suspects that we've seen out of these red decks of late, Zach, we've got 4 Fire Drink Crusader, 4 Rakdos Cackler, 4 Foundry Street Denizen, and then 3 Legion Loyalist. What stands out to you here?
Well, I mean, one of the things that stands out to me is just how many one-drops there are. 15 means that not only are you almost always going to have a creature on turn 1, pretty frequently you're going to be able to play 2 creatures on turn 2. Now, Legion Loyalist is a card that we've only really seen, in decks that are really dedicated to it. One of the things that this deck has is pump spells in the form of Rubble Belt Maca, ways to really leverage the first strike. But a really important thing about Legion Loyalist, one of the big decks coming into this tournament, mono blue. And Master of Waves, in addition to having protection from red, makes an army of tokens that give a deck with this many small creatures fit. Legion Loyalist says, though, when you attack, you can't be blocked by tokens.
Nobody sees that, by the way.
Right.
That little line of text, maybe it looks italic to some people, but I've seen so many, even top-level players go, wait, what? I can't block with my Pack Rat tokens, with my Master Waves tokens, with my Elspeth tokens. If you can get the Battalion triggered on that, no, sir.
Yeah, even bigger things. It's easy to think of tokens 1/1s, 2/1s, but you can't block with Advent of the Worm. So Legion Loyalist really does a great job pushing through the last few bits of damage. The important thing to realize here is just how fast this deck can come out. These Foundry Street Denizens, 1 mana, 1/1, but really easy to attack as a 2/1 or even a 3/1 in concert with multiple 1-drops or Burning Tree Emissaries.
Yeah, and this Foundry Street Denizen might not look like much, but it really doesn't need to attack that many times, right? I mean, if you get in there 2 or 3 times with it, you're going to find your opponent at low single-digit life totals pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this is a deck that is not trying to get to turn 8.
Yeah, now, one thing I do want to note here is you mentioned that this deck lied somewhere in the middle, but that was in the middle of the aggressive red strategy, so this is still a very quick deck.
Yeah, this is not a mid-range deck. It's definitely an aggressive deck. Just, a little bit higher of a mana curve than we're used to seeing from some of the totally all-in decks that play things like a Crowan Crusader, again, Madcap Skills, 4 main deck Titan Strength.
Okay, well, why don't we move up the scale a little bit here and see what the 2-drops look like for this deck. We see 4 Burning Tree Emissary, a card that we've seen in many different decks through its time in Standard. Also, 4 Fire Fist Striker. Now, this is a card that did a lot of work in Limited and has really seen its day here in Standard, and then 2 Ash Zealot on the end. Why don't you walk us through the 2-drops here, Zach?
Yeah, so, I mean, a really interesting thing. Obviously, Ash Zealot, really powerful card, but you actually can cast Fire Fist Striker with Burning Tree Emissary. So that's one of the reasons you have this mix of cards. Now, oftentimes, Burning Tree Emissary just going to cast another 1-drop, but it's still super important to get really explosive Foundry Street Denizen draws, as well as just have a critical mass of creatures to overwhelm the mono black deck's removal. Most of the mono black deck's removal spells cost 2 or 3 mana, so if you can deploy a lot of 1 and 2 mana threats to the board, oftentimes you can get so far ahead that they're not able to catch up.
You're one step ahead from, even if they have a handful of removal spells and you're pecking away at their life total consistently.
Exactly, and against things like blue-white, their detention spheres cost 3, Supreme Verdict cost 4. Oftentimes you can deploy so many threats to the table that Supreme Verdict on the draw is just not going to be fast enough.
Yeah, now another thing about Burning Tree Emissary that we've seen for a long time is sometimes you just get that draw where you're like Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Fire Fist Striker, go.
Exactly.
Right, and then your opponent's just staring at their hand like lands. you know, and it's really tough to catch up to even just something simple like that.
And the final thing I want to say about Burning Tree Emissary is that we usually think of it as a turn 2 card. But the thing is, on turn 3, it actually pairs well with another 4 in the deck, Stoke the Flames, which allows you, Burning Tree Emissary gives you 2 mana, tapping it as 1 more, so it essentially allows you to play a 4 damage burn spell for only a single mana or a single other creature tap. Great way to power through blockers in the mid game.
Now, one thing, I want to move on to Fire Fist Striker. There's 3 of those. You don't need to trigger it that many times to make it good. I've seen it in the feature match area, trigger once, and that was enough. You know, somebody played a Blood Baron or some big blocker where it was like, okay, I'm stable, and nope, you're not.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Fire Fist Striker just gets things like Voice of Resurgence out of the way, blocks it in Smiter. I mean, yeah, it just is that extra mile that gives the deck what we like to call range, or the ability to overcome board stalls.
Now, what about Ash Zealot? There's 2 of them in there. Is this, for lack of a better term, like a filler 2-drop? They just needed 2 more 2-drops, or does it serve a specific role?
I mean, the card's really good. It hits very hard. 2 power worth of first strike means that you can finish off even big creatures like Pelucranos with a lightning strike without losing your creature. Obviously, we're not playing it for the second ability about casting spells from the graveyard, but
that was looking backwards a little bit. Looking forwards, we don't see that as much.
Yeah, exactly.
And the haste, right? I mean, the haste is huge, too.
2/2 first strike haste, just really solid magic.
All right, let's take a look at a very key card in this deck. In fact, I think it's pretty much the namesake, which is Goblin Rabble Master. And if we can bring it up here, we can take a look at it. There it is, Goblin Rabble Master, 4 of this brand new card from Magic 2015. How important is this card, and what is its role in the deck, Zach?
So Rabble Master, really one of the key cards in the deck. The Goblin, the token making ability, extremely good with Legion Loyalists, helps to give you Battalion.
Oh yeah, easy Battalion.
Super easy Battalion, really powerful with Foundry Street Denizen, pumps that up and makes sure it can continue attacking. Also, again, really good with Stoke the Flames. It allows you to put the trigger on the stack, tap that and the token, allowing you to not have to attack the token and do a bigger creature to either deal 4 damage to the face or clear out a blocker for the rest of your cards.
And that's all the turn it came into play.
Yeah, that's right when you cast it.
Wow,
exactly.
Yeah, that's nasty.
So this card, the combination of that and Stoke the Flames really allows you to capitalize on what would ordinarily be a pretty big drawback, which is that your 1/1 just has to attack into bigger creatures a lot of the time. The other thing to forget, this card just by itself can put games away incredibly fast. It's a 2/2 that gives you 1 point of essentially haste damage. Next turn, you get to attack with 2 tokens, plus that's 4 more damage. So it just piles on the damage a lot faster than it looks.
Yeah, this seems like one of those cards where, let's say that you don't have the best draw, and your opponent does get to sweep your board away with some spell. That's what you want the next turn.
Yeah, exactly.
You just put that down, you hit him for 1 right away, and the next turn you're like, you better come up with something to kill this, because this thing takes over the board all by itself. Great new card. If you like playing red, that might be your guy.
Yeah, also really powerful synergy with Mutavault too. Mutavault obviously counts as a goblin. So Mutavault plus Rabble Master means you're essentially attacking for 7 damage. Because of the extra
All right, let's move on to the next one here, and we'll see some of the different ways that you can get damage through. We like to call these reach spells for typical aggressive decks. These are spells that don't necessarily need to attack and block to get damage in, although some of these can as well. We've got full 4 Stoke the Flames. I'm going to grill you on that one, Zach Hill. There's also 3 Lightning Strike, 3 Rubble Belt Maca, and then a Misers, as we say, Titan Strength. But first, I want to start with Stoke the Flames from M15. That thing has been kicking butt all weekend.
Yeah, Stoke the Flames, I mean, really a testament to the power of Convoke. Evokes a card, Fire Blast, that was out about 15 years ago that was defining red decks. The thing about Stoke the Flames is that it allows you to capitalize on Burning Tree Emissary and some of your smaller creatures. We saw the deck had 15 1-drops. Those get outclassed quickly. But if you can use them to cast Stoke the Flames while applying more pressure, it really allows you to just keep being the aggressor for a turn or 2 longer than it would be. Obviously 4 mana, a lot for 4 damage, although not a horrible deal. But if you're casting this by tapping like 1 or 2 lands, allows you to attack with Mutavault, it allows you to leverage creatures that you just cast. It essentially makes any of your 1-drops free that turn because they tap immediately for Stoke the Flames. And in concert, again, with Legion Loyalist, that first strike ability plus 4 damage can take out Desecration Demons, can take out Pelucranos, can take out a lot of big creatures, as well as, of course, just going to the Dome for 4 or getting rid of Planeswalkers.
Right, and we've seen it kill, like I said, Blood Baron, Viscopa. typically a really tough card for a deck like this, and you just get that out of here. Now, Lightning Strike is pretty self-explanatory. The sort of de facto burn spell for the red decks makes sense for controlling the board or finishing off your opponent. But what about Rubble Belt Maka?
Yeah, Rubble Belt Maka, actually a card that's seen probably a lot more play than you'd think it would at first glance. It's had really good results on the independent tournament circuit. The thing it does here is it really gives you great economy of mana. With 15 1-drops, you really want to be using all of your lands for the first 3 or 4 turns of the game. So what it allows you to do is attack with a 2/2, maybe trade with another 2/2, trade up with a 3/3 or a 4/4, while keeping on the pressure with Mutavaults, still casting the rest of your burn spells. It almost always is used as a Blood Rush card. If you get a little bit flooded, you can cast it as a 3/3, but that +3/+3 means that not only are you getting blockers out of the way, your creature usually going to survive.
Yeah, and it's incredible how often you have to just keep a key creature alive, your Fire Fist Striker. It gets blocked by a 1/1 or a 2/2. You throw Rubble Belt Maka on it, and now you get another activation on it, and you can just finish off the game. 1 Titan Strength.
Yeah, I know. I've looked around. I've seen a lot of different people playing a deck that's almost like this. Some people play 4 Maka, 0 Titan Strength. I think Titan Strength, one of the big advantages of it is that it actually, if your opponent sees it and Maka, they have to play around a lot more cards. It's also good against things like mass removal, things like Bile Blight. The extra toughness sometimes matters. Just, you know, if they play Drown in Sorrow, you can play it on their turn, keep a creature alive. The Scry matters every once in a while. I think for all practical purposes, though, really similar card to Rubble Belt Maka.
Okay, we've got one more, the lands. Now, this is a pretty easy one. One question, though, 3 Mutavault. Why?
I think what you'll see in a deck like this, you know, obviously Mutavault, one of the biggest incentives to be monocolor in this format, a lot of people say really deceptively, maybe the most powerful card in Standard.
I've heard a lot of people say that, who I trust. I think that might be true.
Exactly. I mean, but the thing is, when you have Burning Tree Emissary, when you have Ash Zealot, when you have draws that want to go 1-drop, 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 you cannot have hands that are just a single mountain and a single Mutavault. Furthermore, with only 21 lands, you're probably not getting mana flooded. You're probably not going to be able to use 2 Mutavaults particularly aggressively. So really, you've got to have those 18 mountains to make sure that you can curve out on the first and second turn of the game.
It's funny, Mutavault's actually like the curve topper. It's like what you do when you're out of, you know, other stuff to do. You just throw that 1 mana you've got into your Mutavault and get in there.
Well, I mean, really, when you think about the spells Mutavault can actually cast, it can cast Fire Fist Striker, Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames, and Rabble Master, but like more than half your deck, it can't really cast. It can only sort of cast Rubble Belt Maka. So it really is more of a 2/2 that survives Supreme Verdict and can't be targeted by Detention Sphere, then you're really saying, oh, okay, I can use this to cast most of my spells.
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually a big compliment to Mutavault, and it shows how good the card really is, just that it is even in here, because normally this would be a straight up 21 mountain deck, but this card's so good, it demands that much attention, and 3 of them made it into the main.
Exactly, and one of the ways we differentiate this from the faster decks, they play 17, 18 lands. This deck with the full 21 can actually cast cards like Rabble Master and Stoke. It gives it a little bit more reach in the mid to late game.
Okay. Well, thanks, Zach. This was great. So this has been Rabble Red. If you like aggressive decks, this is the one for you. For Zach Kill, I'm Marshall Sutcliffe signing off from the Tournament Center.